Joining us now, Monica Crowley, radio talk show host and Fox News contributor, and Simon Rosenberg, who's president and founder of NDN, a think tank and advocacy organization, also former campaign advisor to President Clinton. Monica?
Megyn.
Yes, Governor Romney has a very serious point that he's making about the lack of strong American leadership at a very, very difficult crisis point for us here in the United States. Look, what the governor was trying to point out is that in times of crisis, when American citizens and American embassies and our diplomats are under attack, there should be clear messaging to Commander-in-Chief coming from all aspects of his administration. What Governor Romney was pointing out is the fact that this administration seemed to be all over the map at a moment when American leadership was desperately needed from the Commander-in-Chief. It was sorely lacking. And then for the White House to come out and try to disavow the embassy's statement when this is his own State Department coming out repeatedly over the course of, about 24 hours yesterday with these kinds of apologetic appeasement statements. This is what Governor Romney is pointing to, the absolute lack of leadership at a moment in time where it's absolutely needed from the president, and we're just not getting it.
Simon, your thoughts?
This all just sounds like desperate rantings from a campaign that's losing the election right now, honestly. I mean, this is a very delicate situation. Once again, Mitt Romney acted without the kind of delicacy that we would expect of a leader. It was a very tough situation last night, happening late at night. And I don't think that anything that was said by the embassy or by the administration was in any way out of line. I think this is all much to do about nothing. It is true that this video has created problems in the Middle East. Today, the State Department just released a warning for 7 countries that this video is now inciting unrest in the region. However, there's no excuse for what happened. And we also know, in terms of the attacks on our 2 embassies, we also know, though, the attack in Benghazi looks like a military attack. It doesn't look like a bunch of demonstrators crawling all over the wall like what happened in Cairo. It looked like something of a completely different nature. We need to understand it. And remember, our ambassador who was killed last night sided with the rebels against the government. He was a symbol of openness and democracy and this government's commitment to seeing a better day for the Middle East, which is probably one of the reasons why he was targeted so specifically last night.
Monica, why, some are questioning today, if you read the press, some are questioning why our embassy would be issuing a statement. There's no question that this film sounds incendiary. But in America, we believe in free speech. That's one of the fundamental principles of our country. And they are questioning why our embassy would feel compelled to weigh in on a statement by a private individual that, many in the Muslim world find offensive. But we in America believe in free speech.
Yes, that's exactly right. And that's part of the reason why this embassy statement was so appalling to begin with. And then when the outrage started to build, they doubled down on that. And then Secretary Clinton seemed to reiterate it as well. Look, one of the reasons why Governor Romney now is being criticized today is because he put out a very strong statement defending the United States, which is what the President of the United States should be doing. Let's not lose sight of the fact, Megyn, that these attacks on American embassies, our diplomats, on American citizens, happened on 9/11. We now are hearing reports that the brother of Ayman al-Zawahiri, who is now the leader of al-Qaeda, Mohammed al-Zawahiri, was spotted at the Cairo embassy attack. Remember that Ayman al-Zawahiri is now running al-Qaeda, came out of the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood. The Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood running Egypt, now very influential in Libya. They are the world's most influential, important, and dangerous and organized Islamist organization. All they have to do is blow that dog whistle, and they can get an angry mob to attack anybody at any time. This was well coordinated. This was orchestrated. And we all better wake up to the fact that this was not senseless violence, as the President and the Secretary of State continue to say. This is not senseless at all to the enemy. They are carrying this out with very, very specific goals and reasons, and we better wake up to it.
Simon, you can hear in Monica's criticism that what we have here is an attack on the U.S. Embassy in Cairo first, where you've got the brother of the emir of al-Qaeda standing out there, according to reports. You've got them burning and shredding the American. You've got them putting up a black banner that resembles the flag of al-Qaeda. You've got them chanting, "Obama, Obama, we are all Osama." And the initial reaction from the embassy is to apologize for hurting the feelings, the religious feelings of Muslims. This is prior to the protest because of that video.
Right.
And then doubling down on it. And then the State Department comes out and talks about how it deplores intentional efforts to denigrate the religious beliefs of others. The suggestion is we needed to stand as a country and say, get out of the embassy, don't endanger the Americans who are there, and if you mess with America, you will live to regret it.
Megyn, I think that you yourself just corrected the timeline that you were laying out.
No, I've laid out our introduction laid out the timeline just right.
I know, and you did it correctly the first time and not the second time. And I think that all I want to say about this is that I am extremely proud of the progress that's been made in the last 3 years in this region. We have seen a democratic transition take place in Libya and in Tunisia and Egypt. I had representatives from all 3 countries in my office yesterday with the American ambassador to the region, having a coherent, wonderful conversation about the future of this region in English, right, in coherent English. There are remarkable things that we've all wanted to see for decades coming to pass in the region today. There are going to be bumps in the road, but things were much worse in the region 4 years ago when Barack Obama, during the campaign of 2008. We have seen tremendous progress, but I just want to say, I'm going to answer your question, is that there are going to be bumps in the road. There are going to be difficulties along the way.
This is not a bump in the road, Simon. This is a terrorist attack against U.S. interests. This is not a bump in the road. And by the way, the entire Middle East now is falling
It's insulting to the American people that you guys are trying to make the argument that somehow the president didn't respond definitively. He's shown more competency and dexterity in managing the issues in the Middle East than all the Republican presidents in the last 30 years combined.
The reason we have a mess on our hands right now is because this president moved to dislodge 2 key U.S. allies, Hosni Mubarak in Egypt and Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. Now we have the Muslim Brotherhood.
Were you against that? Monica, were you against that?
Yes, I actually supported allies of the United States that were at peace with us and at peace with Israel over this, over the Muslim Brotherhood and Islamist killers running the Middle East. Okay. You bet.
Go ahead, Simon.
So, Monica, my question is that during the Bush administration, when we allowed both Hezbollah and Hamas to become recognized as legitimate political parties and then were elected to office, and when we took out a government in Iraq that was an enemy of Iran and put in an Iran-allied government in the Middle East, did you also decry what the Bush administration does, because there was more empowerment of Hezbollah and Hamas and Iran during the Bush administration during the last 3 years? So what's the difference? I need to understand what's the difference here.
Here's the distinction. Saddam Hussein, Hezbollah, and Hamas were not allies of the United States. Okay, they were terrorists. Here we've got, and by the way, in your question of democracy, yes, those folks in the Gaza Strip elected Hamas. And you know what? There's a learning curve. People have to understand that if they elect terrorists to represent them, there's a price to pay.
Israel asked us not to recognize them as a legitimate political party, and Bush overruled our good ally Israel during that period in 2005.
The Middle East is falling to the Islamists, Simon, and you're defending that?
All right, I got to go. I got to leave it at that.
I'm defending the democratic transitions that are happening in the Middle East.
Good debate, good points, you guys. I appreciate it. Simon, you as well, Monica. Thank you.
Okay, you bet.
Right after this break, the woman who found herself at the heart of a fight between Planned Parenthood and the world's leading breast cancer group discusses the firestorm that led to her resignation and what she thinks of the contraception and abortion arguments featured prominently last week at the Democratic Convention. And after it had a long and successful run in the theaters, the president's campaign team is now going after a film that makes predictions about Mr. Obama's possible second term. We'll show you why just ahead.
Change has come to America.
From our founding fathers, that together we must perfect liberty, and America must